Here, there we go. Okay, cool. Well, thank you everyone for coming. So at any point, I'm going to be trying to take pauses so that you can just switch on your mics and ask a question where it's appropriate, so you don't have to bottle them up till the end. If you want to add something, always feel free to. This is not intended to make you all masters of cases over 1 hour, because that's just impossible. It's more of a bird's eye view on the whole system of cases, to see where they act, to look at some interesting examples and some more common usages. And if you are looking for an opportunity to organize your notes, that would also be great for that. Okay. Good. So a lot of people get kind of confused with cases. So basically you can think of cases as closed. They make it possible for words to go out of their just normal dictionaries and function in groups of other words, which are sentences. So applying a case is basically getting the word ready to function normally in the linguistic society in a sentence. And depending on the situation, the noun will pick its case or its adjective or pronoun. And those cases just basically tell the appropriate relationship. They tell us what kind of function, what kind of job a word is doing in a sentence. And that's what makes us understand each other. As you know, Russian has a relatively free word order. So without cases, there will be a lot of ambiguity, a lot of confusion. And cases show themselves basically in endings that words take. English also has cases. It's not something unique to Russian or Slavic languages. The thing is, English just kind of lost almost all its cases. I say almost because some personal pronouns still have them. There are 3 cases in English. There's the objective case, which is like normal words, cat, mother, I. There's a subjective case, which loosely corresponds to accusative. All of these him, her, them, us is actually just a case. And the possessive case, his, her, hers, or even mothers, professors, is also a case, which is possessive. It has no clear counterpart, but we have genitive that kind of works with possession sometimes. And just like you would never really make a mistake in English like that, you wouldn't say, I saw he. You would say, I saw him. You wouldn't say with she, I'm happy. You say with her, I'm happy. That is exactly what happens in Russian, times 30 something. Yeah, we don't have just those like 2, 3 forms. We have a lot of them for every word, for 99% of words. As you know, there are 6 cases that you guys work with, but I guess a small correction has to be made. There are 6 codified cases. There are 6 cases in the official grammar. We use more cases than that. And if you count, depending on how you count, you can get up to 50. That doesn't mean entirely new endings. It just means new combinations of meaning plus ending. Some of them are pretty often used though. Like this example on the screen, a locative case. Usually a prepositional is something that we say applies to both the topic, about, on, and the position, on the table, in the library. However, those are 2 different distinct functions, and in some words they manifest differently. В лесу, in a forest, о лесе, about a forest. So one of them is locative, one of them is prepositional. Although in Russian official grammar, we clump them together, which is, I guess, good news for y'all. Another interesting case, which is new vocative, the new form of vocative case, that only is used with names that have a feminine form. Sasha goes to Sash when you are addressing that person. Well, Katya goes to Kat when you're trying to say, hey, Katya, listen to me, I'm talking to you. So those are just two examples of cases that are not codified in your textbooks, but you will hear them in speech. And if you spend enough time in Russia, you will start using them without even knowing that you are. And for us, cases are pretty intuitive. We do get jumbled. We do confuse endings sometimes, especially when it comes to like numerals. Declining numbers is a big challenge for a lot of Russians too, but it's mostly intuitive. And with practice, they will also be intuitive for you. If you are struggling with kind of going through mental catalog of cases every time you speak, it's not going to last forever. That's just how language learning works. I guarantee it is going to start to be effortless. It's kind of like tying the shoes. I'm sure it was very, very difficult back when you were 3 or 4. It's not really difficult anymore unless you're heavily intoxicated, of course. In those cases, it's pretty difficult. And another thing that sometimes makes people lose heart is that when you look at the table of cases, it has multiple possible endings for one specific thing, like prepositional, singular, feminine would have at least 2 or 3. Most of that variety is just pairs of hard and soft. Feel free to make mistakes in those because it's not going to make any difference in your speech. It's only going to be a minor spelling mistake. If you know the case and you put a kind of correct ending, it is, I would say, 90% of victory. And 90 is a high number. So when you put a word in a case, that's called declension. When you do it, it's called declining. So you can't conjugate nouns. That's a mistake some people make. You cannot conjugate nouns. And everything that has to do with a noun can be declined, which includes nouns themselves, including names, their pronouns like I, her, they, adjectives that are in place of nouns, like the poor, бедные, or adjectives that are together with nouns, бедные люди, poor people, possessive pronouns, моя, мой, твой. They're participles, they look like adjectives, yeah, бегущий, the running man, or кричащий, the screaming man, beloved, yeah, like любимый. Numbers, both cardinal and ordinal, also have cases, so it's not just два, it's двух, двумя, двум, and all these variations. And even certain question words. I think it's just 4. Кто, что have cases. Сколько all of a sudden has cases. Yeah, you would have сколькими in instrumental or скольких in prepositional. And of course, какой, what kind of, which kind of functions as an adjective and has both genders and cases. So this is probably like the hardest part, that because they're not really nouns, but somehow they take cases that are declined. So when you're asking the question, with whom did you go? That is going to be с кем, not кто. Okay, I'm going to move on from this one. Some cases, some nouns are going to give you a break, which is great news. A lot of y'all's names, Caroline and Rachel, notably. Yeah, I'm only talking feminine names here. Foreign names, okay, I'll start with female. Female names that end in consonants will not change its form, however much you decline them. Yeah, S Caroline, or Caroline, для Caroline, it's all going to be the same. If the word doesn't matter, masculine, feminine, but it has a weird ending, like Katie, Donnie, Margot, that's not gonna be declined either because we just don't know what to do with those. A lot of neuter words that we borrow don't have cases. You don't decline pianino, piano, Tabasco, Colorado, palto, your overcoat, the same word in all cases. Kino, taxi, cacao, jury, the bunch of these, they're gonna look the same in every case. You can't even make a plural out of them. It's just one word. If they are coupled with an adjective, you will have to put the adjective in a good case, but at least you don't have to touch the noun. And coffee and whiskey, they're not neuter, which is why I excluded them. Also look the same in any case. Я люблю кофе, это круассан с кофе, это лекция о кофе, о истории кофе. Same form for everything. It's not a lot, but it's helpful. Is there something that you don't have to really work hard with? All right, so that was kind of a small introduction. So now let's actually look at the cases themselves. And if you think I'm gonna skip nominative, I'm not. We're gonna go down that list and we're gonna look at them, basically covering all the possible things that I remembered. It's not gonna be 100%, but it's gonna be a lot of these functions and exceptions. I did my best to remember all of them. So in general, if you just don't want to go into too much detail, that's the truth on this slide that you should internalize. And that's going to be the majority of your learning, honestly. Nominative, which is the main case, as in it's the subject, it's the normal one. Accusative is a direct object case. That's just what it is. Genitive is your of case, and it has a lot of prepositions. It's probably, arguably, the most common case. I shouldn't say that without having data to back it up, but I'm fairly sure that that's the case. Dative, from dare, to give, is the receiving case. It's what you get. Prepositional, as it says in the name, is about positions and topics. And instrumental is your with by case. So this little scheme you can kind of learn by heart and go by it because it's going to cover the biggest, most common functions of these cases. It's not an exhaustive list, but it covers the majority. And now we can go into detail. And for those who just came, if you ever have any question, comment, or correction, just hop in, just turn your mics and, interrupt. That's totally fine. So nominative is the case that is the subject. The main word, the word that is the actor of the sentence, is going to be the subject. And it's really important to understand it because it's tempting to think that nominative is just a piece of cake, but sometimes the syntax is going to trick you into thinking that nominative is not nominative. So it is a case. It's not just nothingness, right? And it's not just naming things. Вот телефон, это общежитие, вот моя семья. Every subject in a sentence is going to be nominative. So I put some examples here. In English, everything most of the time looks like nominative. And that is because you guys have a very strict word order. If you jumble words around, you're going to change the meaning entirely. Take Katya, who's a very fierce girl, and she's really protective of her boundaries. So she bites people when something happens. Katya bit Masha. Both Katya and Masha look like normal words, Try to flip them around, and Masha all of a sudden becomes the perpetrator and Katya is the victim. So it's a totally opposite situation. In Russian, because your subject is nominative, you always can be sure that it's Katya who did the action, who is the actor of the biting. And you can just flip them around. Mashu укусила Katya. Because Katya is a nominative and Masha is not, we know for sure who did what to whom. So who was the subject, the actor, and who was the object. This is super straightforward, but it can sometimes be less so. Take these examples with two asterisks. Asterisks. Professor likes Oleg. In English, professor would be the subject. He is the actor of liking. He is the person who is actively enjoying this wonderful person, Oleg. In Russian, other way around. Oleg is doing something active to be liked by the professor. So with nравится, the person who you like, your subject, right, in English, is going to be the object. So when you build in syntax with нравится, that's very important to understand. Да? Я нравлюсь тебе. It's not really do you like me. Am I liked to you? Am I likable to you? Another confusing example with a very, very common phrase. I have, sorry that there's a mistake here. It says I have time. I have a job, right? У меня есть работа. In English, that would be the subject. I am the person who does the having, and the job is my object. In Russian, you say, there is the job to me. So what you have is also going to be the subject, is going to be nominative. Unless, of course, this is a very minute little thing, unless you don't have a job. Because нет, or не было, or не будет, the negation takes genitive. And yes, that means that in the sentence у меня нет, or не было работы, there's no subject. It is a subjectless sentence. We have those in Russian. Nothing is in nominative, and that's okay. We have two genitives here and no actor. To me, there was none of the job. No one does the action here. There's no subject. So on your comms, when you have something with нет, не было, не будет, negation of being, having, be super careful around those. Think twice. Since nominative is the subject case, it's tempting to think, well, prepositions are for, more, are for everything that's not the subject, right? So prepositions probably wouldn't work with nominative. Yes, but most of the time, if you have a preposition, nominative is not going to work out. But this is the slide with a star because it's kind of like extra knowledge. A little trick, a little thing that no one is aware of. There are at least two prepositions that do work with nominative. One of them is za, in a specific situation, in a specific syntax of что за, what the, or what kind of. As you know, что cannot be used to ask, what movie are you watching? Or what job do you have? Yeah, it has to be какой фильм, какая работа. Well, you can go around it. If you have что за, you can use что as in what kind of. Да? Что за шум? What is that noise? Yeah? Что шум does not work. Какой шум? What kind of noise? Okay. Что за шум? That's how Russians would say it. And шум is going to be in nominative. Что за фигня? What the heck? Or if you want to spice it up, of course. Что за хуйня? Damn, I'm recording. That's okay. I'm a teacher. That's also part of language. And another pretty rare case is nominative used with v, only in plural, and only in the meaning joining the ranks or professions. Пойти в президенты, to go into presidents, it means to join the rank, to join the profession of a president, to become one. Another example, я люблю медицину, пойду в доктора. I will go into doctors. That means I will join this profession. So ranks, professions. And you can see it in this wonderful idiom, из грязи в князи. Literally from mud into knyazes, into a king. And v kнязи here is nominative, from 0 to hero. And nominative makes it the easiest for us to diagnose a gender. So when you just learn a word, you open the dictionary, it's going to give you the word in nominative. And it is worthy to learn it like this in this form, and to note what gender is it. Yeah, if it ends in aya, that's probably going to be feminine, at least grammatically. If it ends in мягкий знак, the soft sign, could be either, most probably feminine. If it ends in a consonant, you know, it's masculine. If it ends in мягкий знак, sometimes it's masculine, like день, a day. Words like papa, дядя, мужчина, дедушка, so dad, uncle, a man, a grandfather. It's a very tricky point. Are grammatically feminine. They are gonna have feminine endings, but they are gonna have masculine adjectives. Мой папа, умный дядя, хороший мужчина, твой дедушка. So they are grammatically feminine. They will be described as masculine if you want to describe them. And coffee and whiskey look like weird genders, but they're considered masculine. If you see it ending in O or yeah, it is gonna be neuter. Neuter is good because it joins masculine in all variations, conjugations. So that's gonna be easy. With the exception of words that end in mia, they look like they would be feminine. Yeah, they're actually neuter. Время, time, is neuter. Бремя, burden, is neuter. Племя, tribe, is neuter. Имя, name, is also neuter. So these little kind of more archaic words that look feminine but act neuter and are neuter. Да? Мое время, my time. Твое имя, красивое имя, your beautiful name. And plural is just ui. Sometimes it's a, especially neuter, but with other genders too. And here's a little trick. So this is kind of like under an asterisk. Годы and года, years. Both of these options are correct. There's no difference whatsoever. Say in идут годы, the years are going. Идут года, the years are going. Same difference. Good to have some variations like that. All right, are we good on nominative? I hope we are. Yep, all good. Okay, cool. I just All I needed to hear.
Actually, I think there was one thing in the chat.
Chat. Oh yeah. Does that apply to names like Kolia as well? Does that apply to? Yes, it does. So Kolia is a form that is grammatically feminine, like a lot of masculine names. That Nikita, Dima, Seryoja. So that means all the endings are gonna be like feminine. For example, Seryozhu in accusative, which is a feminine ending. But if you want to say, oh, that's my Kolia, my, the descriptor is going to be masculine. Это мой Коля. If you want to say, I see my Коля, я вижу моего Колю. So it's a bit of a jambalaya. Моего is the adjectival masculine ending because the descriptor is masculine. But Kolyu has its feminine ending grammatically because it ends in an a. So yes, it is tricky. Kolya, if that scares you, use Nikolai. Nikolai, the full form ends in a consonant and is just gonna behave like a normal masculine, fully masculine word. Good question.
Спасибо.
Пожалуйста. Okay, so the other one is accusative, which sometimes looks like nominative, so it makes sense to continue with that one. Accusative, you can remember it as your direct object case. We talked about the subject, and subject is always nominative. And object is, I guess, what receives the action, not the actor, but the thing acted upon. We go back to Katya fighting Masha. Let's say she did it again. Thank God, because we get to look at the example again. Katya is the subject, she's a nominative. Masha would be the direct object, yeah, because she's directly receiving this action. So Mashu, Katya укусила Mashu. Masha is receiving that action quite directly. I hope she's okay. And she is here in accusative. All these verbs whose action can be that act upon someone, it's transitive verbs. I know, I see, I touch, I love, I hate, I accuse, I read, I borrow, I want, I despise, I hear. All of these are going to take accusative. Yet another very popular case. Direct object is its main, biggest, most important purpose. Another one, it's pretty big, is using accusative with prepositions v and na when you are talking about your destination or direction of movement. So very often with verbs of motion, пойти, идти, ходить, ездить, ехать, those babies, it's probably going to be accusative. Мы пойдем в библиотеку. We are heading to the library. We're not there yet, so it's not our position. It is our destination. Он едет в магазин. He is on his way by car to the shop. Also accusative. So in sentences like я в библиотеку, you can understand that you're heading there. Even with curse words, они идут нахуй. Why isn't it нахуя or нахую? Нахуем. Well, because you are sending the person to the deck, and it is their destination or direction of movement. So that is accusative. Mark joined us.
Hello.
Hello. Okay. And the third one, which is also very often used in normal speech, is with the day of the week. So that has to do with time expressions. Понедельник, вторник, среду, четверг, пятницу, субботу, воскресенье. Those are all going to be accusative. Just about days of the week, though. So these three are the biggest, but by far, again, not an exhaustive list. Sorry, I'm trying to change slides and get stuck. Okay. So this is a little star. So these are cases that are situations that are less common in language, but they still use accusative. With the preposition za, in the meaning to be in favor of something, so to not be against, or in the meaning in exchange for something. It's easier to understand with examples. Я за реформу. I am for this reform. I'm not against it. Same with голосую за. I vote for something. Люди голосуют или не голосуют за Путина. There's your accusative. And за, and as in exchange for something. Вот $5 за кофе. I understand coffee is the same in any case, but trust me, here is accusative. Спасибо за кофе. Thank you for coffee. Спасибо за работу. Thanks for your job. Thanks in exchange for your job. Another preposition which you can easily do without is pro, which is another preposition for about. There is no difference whatsoever between o, about, and pro, about, in terms of meaning. The only difference is they use different cases. Pro uses accusative. Да? Книга про войну, a book about war. Фильм про любовь, the film about love. And two more prepositions that use accusative is через, which is across, like across the street maybe, over something, or in, like in 5 minutes, in 2 days, you have to hand in the paper. So here are some examples. Через порог не здороваются. It's a Russian superstition that you cannot greet people across the doorstep. Через порог. Через дорогу от русского дома, перепад, ADT, across the street. Через неделю мой день рождения. In a week, it's my birthday. So this would go kind of into, again, expressions of time. Через 5 минут, через час, через неделю, через год. And сквозь, through, also takes accusative. Я путешествую сквозь время, through time, right through. Those are your accusatives. A lot of usages very often comes in handy, and I usually call accusative a fake bitch because it imitates the behavior of other cases quite often. It barely has a form on its own. I mean, I guess in feminine it does, but it's just so difficult to work with. It's pretentious. It says, well, yeah, masculine and feminine, but also I want to know if it's alive or not alive. And for example, if it's feminine, I don't care if it's alive or not alive. It's going to be uyu. But if it's plural feminine, I guess I do care actually. So it's kind of a brat to deal with. Here's the general scheme that, looks like a total mind maze. I'm going to keep this slide on just for people who are taking notes. Also, this presentation is in your comp folder, so you'll be able to go back to it. When you have accusative, basically your course of action is probably going to be this. If it's a single fem, as in feminine singular, go by the rule ooh, you. That is going to be the endings ooh or you. If it's inanimate, so it's not a single fem, but it's inanimate, don't touch it, leave it be. It's perfect the way it is. If it's any sort of animate, again, say for single fems, go for genitive endings. These 3 steps should be exhaustive when it comes to working with accusative. But that is all theory, because again, cases are best used when you don't have to do mental arithmetics. Tables are just designed in a way that makes them so hard to memorize. You see those dismembered little letters that mean nothing. Don't memorize tables. Memorize examples. Memorize words. Make little poems. Make sentences. Find common phrases that have this case and this ending. This is the life hack that I really want you to take away, because it's going to be far more effective. Yeah, here I made the little one about accusative. Я люблю жизнь, водку, коньяк, лето, Эдварда Каллена, подруг и конфеты. A little poem, and it has like different examples. Yeah, life being the feminine, ending in мягкий знак, vodka being the typical feminine, cognac being masculine, inanimate, лето being neuter, Edward Cullen being masculine, animate, подруги being feminine, plural, animate, and confetti masculine, plural, feminine, plural, inanimate. That is going to be more effective than memorizing tables. Do that. Highly recommend it. Applies to all cases. Okay. Genitive, you can kind of remember as your off case, because a lot of its uses have something, one thing or the other, to do with off. So if an off situation arises, keep calm and go for genitive. Remember that off is not an explicit preposition in Russian. There's no preposition for off. We communicate the entire meaning of it through genitive alone. And that's another thing why cases are important. They just carry so much meaning. States of America, Штаты Америки, a book of tales, книга сказок. Yeah, see, there's no preposition in between them, but because it's genitive, I understand that it's off. A bowl of soup, miska supa. Quantities, any quantities of things is basically also an off situation. There can be a liter of liter молока, a lot of много работы, few of мало студентов, or even none of. Yeah, why do we say у меня есть машина, but нет машины? Because we say I have none of the car, or zero of the car, zero of food. And all quantities except for one. Yeah, one is just nominative for some reason. But two to basically infinity, it's going to be genitive. Yeah, 3 of cats, 36 of dollars, 52 of cards. Of course, do remember that 2, 3, 4, genitive singular, or 23 or 154, doesn't matter. And 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and the teens, a genitive plural. By that point of time, probably have that kind of hardwired into your brain after all these classes you took. Genitive is also a case of possession, again, through of. Mom's car can be awkwardly said as car of mom. Машина мамы. Жена брата, the wife of brother. And another really big one, very useful one, especially going to be present in comms, exact dates. When if it happened on the 21st of April, 21 апреля, or 5 марта 2020 года. All of these are underlined. All of these are genitive. So exact date, either date and month or date, month, and year, everything is going to fall into genitive. Yeah, unless you're declaring it's the 8th of March, then it's just nominative because you're just naming it. But if you want to say on that date, genitive is your go-to. These four cover the most, kind of. Because also genitive, they should have honestly named prepositional, genitive prepositional. It is so popular with prepositions. This is the case with most prepositions, actually. So I guess if you're ever confused and you're not sure, you cannot remember, statistically, it's going to be a safer option to go for genitive. Here are the popular ones. U, the wonderful preposition that works for possession. Да, у меня есть, у вас есть. But it also works in other situations. Да? Я у мамы. I'm at my mom's. Or also works for near something. У дома есть гараж. There's a garage by the house. Без, without, is 100% genitive preposition. Для, for. Yeah, not the za kind of for, in exchange for something or voting for something, but for as in like in your favor. Here's a thing for you, для тебя. Or it's difficult for me. Это трудно для меня. Is and от, both froms, work with genitive. Is probably going to be about place or origin. От is going to be from someone. Подарок от Марка, gift from Mark. Or сумка от Dolce & Gabbana, the bag from Dolce & Gabbana, that kind of company, that kind of person. Из-за, because of, genitive. Time expressions, с and до, from until, or separately, с, like since. Я не была в, не знаю, я не была в бассейне с весны. I haven't been to the pool since spring. Or до. Я на посте до Масленицы. I'm on Lent before, until Масленица. So both of these together and separately work with genitive. После, after, genitive. Кроме, except for, save for, genitive. And против, against, is also genitive. When I said a bunch, I meant a bunch. These are just the popular ones. There are more. Only these are maybe a little bit less useful, or at least less commonly used, but they also are indicative of genitive. I don't know how on earth you guys gonna learn it, but if you do want to learn it, here they are. Yeah, these and these. Вместо instead of, возле and около both mean near, and u means near. So I guess all of these close by. Almost all of them are genitive. Вокруг, around. Mimo, past something. Да, я еду мимо школы. I'm driving past the school. Среди, among us. Вне, outside. And внутри, inside. I know this is boring. I just really wanted to give you guys them as like a bunch. I hope it's helpful.
This is very helpful. Thank you.
Okay. Oh, and Mark, if you missed it, everyone can hop on at every moment if you have comments or questions.
Yeah, I thought it was really nicely done, Nessie. Молодец, good job. It's nice to have it all in one picture, and it was done with great humor. And it was, I don't think, well, maybe I'm a nerd, but it wasn't boring.
It's, yeah, it's again, it's kind of a bird's eye view, do it all, see it all in one thing, take notes kind of thing. It's not even going to be entertaining, but I'm doing my best.
Yes, we already knew some of this, though. We knew that you were a traveler through time.
Okay, so there are a few verbs that also work with genitive. Бояться, достигать, избегать, at least those three. Я боюсь собак. I guess it's easy to remember because I'm afraid of, so you can make that connection. Да, достигать, to reach, achieve. Она достигла успеха. She reached success. You can't really achieve many other things, I guess. Избегать, to avoid. Я не написала эссе и сейчас избегаю моего профессора. I'm avoiding my professor.
I like that this verb also literally, you can see that it literally means to run away from something.
So избегать, избежать. If you want to tweak this word, if you want to like do different forms, it's going to be the same as to run. Бегать, бежать. Избегаю, бегаю, etc. And another one is giving good wishes. When someone is having a birthday, all of these things that you're going to wish that person, or for yourself actually, are going to be genitive. And oftentimes we even skip the word желаю, I wish you, altogether. And we just kind of name them. Счастья, денег, друзей, удачи. And just when you're saying bye to your friend, hey, have a nice day, you're wishing them something. Хорошего дня. Both of them are in genitive. You can even see it with greetings sometimes. Sometimes people say доброго утра instead of доброе утро. This is not an exhaustive list, but I just thought, you know what, that was big, good, like a lot. So I just chose to stop here. Here's the table if you want it. As you see, I just totally ignored neuter plural because I got very confused. It didn't make any sense to me. And again, don't memorize endings. Your brain is not wired for those. Unless it is, then do memorize. Memorize examples. Something that makes sense to you, something you can hardwire into your brain, and use it as a model when you need it. Which is what I did here. Okay. Any questions about genitive? I guess not. Cool. Dative is labeled as an indirect object. I don't know if that means anything to you, but basically, if accusative is a direct object, something that the action is done directly upon you, indirect object is basically indirectly. You can see it on the example. I give you flowers. If it wasn't for the word order in your language, that wouldn't really make any sense if you start moving words around. But we know that here you give what? You give flowers. Yeah, so you're acting upon flowers. You're moving flowers in space. So that's going to be accusative, flowers. And you, as a receiver of those, are going to be indirect object or dative. Yeah, я даю тебе, dative, to you, цветы, flowers, accusative. If that is a little confusing, just remember dative as the receiving case. And when I say receiving, I mean a pretty general sense of receiving. It can be very straightforward, yeah, like actually getting things. Like you go on a date at dative, and you get all these things: compliments, free food, a ride home, flowers, maybe something else, wherever you take a date. So you can receive a message, говорить to someone, другу, сказать другу, say or tell to someone. That is one of the verbs that works with dative. Of course, the giving or gifting, дать or дарить маме, to mother, flowers. Giving a call or writing to someone. Я позвонила профессору, or я написала письмо профессору. Yeah, dative, the thing that is receiving it is going to be dative. Someone who receives a promise. Я обещаю тебе. I give my promise to you. Or обещаю ему. Promise to him. Giving help. The person is going to receive the help. It's going to be the benefactor of your action. Помогать студенту or студентке. Recommend or advice. Basically kind of help. Also going to be dative. Рекомендую тебе этот фильм. Я советую подруге этот продукт. And a whole lot of others. Like to pay, платить. Someone is going to receive your money. That's dative. Confess, признаться. Someone is going to receive your confession. Show, показать, to someone. Someone's going to receive quite a show. All these receivers. And Caroline, I remember you dislike this case, especially because of that. Yeah, Mark?
Maybe you have this another slide. I wanted just to, I love this. And one way to add to this is the other big time dative is used is when you receive experiences. Do you have another slide for that, or should I just mention that?
Yes, I do have another slide for that.
Okay, sorry, apologize.
I labeled it as feelings and emotions. Experiences is a very good way to put it. So in addition to those like actual receiving, giving, receiving verbs, there are some expressions that are also about that. For example, we conceptualize our age as something we receive in a way, I guess. Yeah, like, or as an experience. Yeah, I've gotten 20 years on this planet. I've received from God, evolution, or however you think of existence. All these age expressions are going to be dative. Мне 20 лет, which is a lie. I'm much older than that. Брату 7 лет. Университету doesn't have to be a person. It can be a thing. The university is 100 years. Университету 100 лет. So the question is not сколько ты, but сколько тебе. How many years to you have you gotten, have you experienced? And as Mark said, This experience stretches to some words of experience, of feelings, of emotions. Not all of them, but a bunch of them, and a bunch of them that are super basic. Yeah, they should definitely be in your vocabulary. And when you put them in your vocabulary, put them as dative. Мне холодно. We had a pretty big temperature drop in Swanee. It dropped almost to, no, actually to 32 this morning. To me, it's cold. Тебе жарко? Are you feeling hot? Are you receiving the heat? Марку плохо? Нет, Марку хорошо. So плохо and хорошо, when it's something that you are feeling, it's your state, your emotional, physical state, are also going to be dative. The experience of feeling bored or engaged are also dative. The experience of sadness, мне грустно, I'm sad, I'm upset. Or, fun, lively, good mood, мне весело, I'm having fun, I'm happy. The fear, мне страшно, да, ребенку страшно. And pleasure, мне приятно, I'm pleased. These are dative. Not done with basics. There are some other basics. One big word is dative is нравится. Its closest counterpart, I really like saying that, is Spanish me gusta, me encanta. It pleases me. Мне нравится твоя музыка. When we looked at nominative, you guys know that the subject is going to be what you like. Yeah. Твоя музыка нравится to whom? To me, мне. Марку нравятся яблочки. Яблочки are nominative. They're not the object, as you would be tempted sometimes to think, but they're the subject. And the receiver of this appeal is Mark, right? Yes. Needs. With words нужно and надо that are pretty much the same, save for нужно is a little bit more versatile because you get to use it with nouns and kind of tweak the gender. Да, нужна, она, он нужен. But anyway, both of these take dative. To me, there is a need to go out. Мне нужно выйти. Студентам нужно выпить. Yeah, these students need a drink. Нам надо прочитать книгу. To us, there is this need to read a book. In all of these examples, I could just replace them. Да, мне надо выйти, absolutely okay. Студентам надо выпить, нам нужно прочитать книгу. All good. With verbs, doesn't matter. And a similar situation is with words of possibility or permission, something that you are allowed to do. Можно, okay to do. Нельзя, not allowed. Можно мне выйти? May I go out? To me, is it possible to go out? Собакам можно есть шоколад? Нет. Собакам, to dogs, нельзя. Now there's a special word for not allowed, not just не можно, but нельзя. And both of these babies, dative. And of course, where would we be without prepositions? Prepositions always have some feelings towards a particular case, right? And with dative, these prepositions that really love dative and work with dative are k, to, towards, and po, along the surface, or sometimes on the subject, on the topic. We'll look at examples to see what it means. And благодаря, due to, thanks to, which makes sense because we give thanks. So к, по, благодаря. Мы идем к Марку. We are going towards Mark's place. If you know where Mark's house is, you know that you go there по дороге Brakefield, along the road Brakefield, the Brakefield Road. Maybe you go in there to receive some consultation because you have an exam on Russian, in Russian subject. Экзамен по русскому языку. Or по русской литературе, as I have here. Thanks to Mark, we finally understand Tolstoy. Благодаря ему мы поняли Толстого. Благодаря, very long for a preposition because literally it's kind of a participle that merged into a preposition. But things like this happen. And it takes dative. Right, we're good on that? Cool. And here's a little star, which is like extra knowledge, something maybe a little bit beyond what you need and have to know. Here are some more things. A construction хочется, which is absolutely synonymous to я хочу. Я хочу пить, мне хочется пить. Literally, I guess it wants. There is a want. It's a subjectless sentence. It doesn't have a subject. Да, мне хочется водки. I really want, I'm craving vodka. Yeah, craving is probably a good translation because it does have this like nuanced meaning. Нам хочется пить. Yeah, we are really in need of water. We need to drink. We want to drink. Подруге, моей подруге хочется сладкого. Hey, Mark, can you recognize this case though? Vodki or sladkava?
Yes. But isn't that, I'm sorry, isn't that just some, I want some vodka? You know, it's the, what they call the partitive genitive. You don't want all of it, you just want some of it.
Yeah. When I mentioned that we have, earlier I mentioned that we have 6 codified cases, but we have some other things. So that is one example of these other things. It's genitive, but it's not fully genitive, it's partitive genitive. It's another thing that happens. I want some of it.
Yeah, when I was a young teacher and first came here to Swanee to teach, I asked my dissertation advisor to come and do a little presentation at the Russian house, and he did. It was really fun. And he said, I don't want to scare anybody, but there actually aren't just 6 cases in Russian. And he explained like these exceptions. So partitive genitive, some of that, you know, particularly with those masculine words that get that oo ending, like chayu, you know, sakharu, I want a little bit of sugar, please. Or, you know, the locative case when you're going to say, I'm not talking about the forest, but I'm in the forest. В лесу.
Yeah, да, в лесу, в лесе. If you guys are curious, you always feel free to Google it. It's easier, more easily Googleable in Russian than in English. It's like my presenting problem, but it's very fascinating because you get to ask those like questions like, how do you even define a case? Like, where does one case stop and another one ends? How many functions can one case have? How much variety can you have to still be able to follow one case and not just two? So
Here's a question for my beloved students, guys. 5,000 points for, how do you say in Russian, Googleable, which we just heard in English. Googleable. Any takers? Did someone say something?
Yeah, just Googleable.
Yeah, Googleable. How do you say that in Russian? Oh no,
It's not. I was just wondering if it's just English, basically.
Oh, I see. I'm sorry. Yeah, I didn't hear you clearly.
If it's basically like the same term potentially, but
So yeah, I'm messing with y'all because we're not talking about participles today. We're talking about cases. But so tell me, Nessie, what would it be? Can you say Google?
You can, but I would say googlitsa.
Googlitsa?
Это googlitsa. It Googles itself. As in
Oh,
can
this,
be Googled.
yes, it's that reflexive. That means it's the middle voice. It's
Yeah.
Googlitsa.
So
Oh,
if I
that's
want to
nice.
like tell someone, hey, stop asking me questions, it's actually Googleable, да? Хватит задавать вопросы. Это гуглится. It can be Googled. It Googles itself.
That's right. And don't forget that a Russian dude, Sergey Brin, was one of the guys who created Google. So, okay. Anyway, guys, sorry. I'm sorry for interrupting.
Yeah.
You know, I can't hardly resist.
Okay. So хочется. Then the short one, знаком, знакома, like знакомый, знакомая, yeah, the short adjective. Familiar to someone, that's going to be dative. Мне знакома эта музыка. This music is familiar to me. Он мне не знаком. He is not familiar to me. I mean, of course, you can do it with full adjectives. Да, знакомый, знакомая. It's just that in Russian natural speech, we would prefer to go for a shorter form, the short adjective. Знаком, знакома. Да? Мне это знакомо. This is relatable. This is familiar to me. I understand this. I relate to this. And another verb is завидовать. We give our envy to people. Я тебе очень завидую. I, to you, envy a lot. Yeah, this is not your direct object, not accusative as you would be tempted to think. It's dative. Да, тебе завидую. Ты мне завидуешь. But again, this is a little star. This is kind of those little odd things about dative. And here's how you make it. Again, pick some words that are representative. Yeah, so I picked a typical feminine word, mama, a word that ends in a мягкий знак, feminine, жизни, and a double vowel word like Россия, or half of your states, Virginia, California. Yeah, that goes to E. Маме, жизни, России. Kind of like in prepositional. Ую for masculine, да, брату, Марку. Ям for both genders and plural. That's how dative looks. And again, for things like personal pronouns like я, ты, and questions, кто, что, сколько, and numbers, 2, 3, 4, you do want to, go and check out what they look like in dative, because you can't just plop an ending onto them. They look a little funkier than that. So, for example, the dative of сколько, скольким. Скольким людям есть 21? How many people here are 21? Или кому скучно? Who is bored? To whom it's boring? Кто кому? That kind of stuff. All right, we're almost there. There's like 2 more cases to go through, and you got your great big overview. Prepositional, or as I like to call it, prepositional, not a very good pun, is about position, like your position in space or time, and topics. And the reason I call it prepositional, I do think it's easier in most cases because it has pretty consistent endings and honestly very few prepositions that work with it. Like, why do they even call it prepositional if it has barely any prepositions? And here's some big ones. V and na. Now, we've seen this before in accusative. Make no mistake, both of them work with both cases, but in different situations. So when you're talking about your current position, your actual position, location, that's going to be preposition. Yeah? Я в библиотеке. I'm in the library. Versus if you hear я в библиотеку, even without a verb, you understand that you're only heading there, because accusative works with destination in space or time. Концерт будет на стадионе. Even if it's not, it hasn't happened yet, it will happen on a stadium. That's not its destination, it is its future location. Да, на стадионе, в общежитии. So в на only with location. And another one is a topic. So about, or that sometimes, just for fluency of language, takes the form of об, and with мне, all of a sudden becomes обо. If I were you, I would just kind of memorize обо мне, yeah, about me, because all other words will have normal or обо is just the me form for that. Это вот книга о политике. That's a book about politics. Поговорим о грамматике. Let's talk about grammar. If it was history, yeah, история. Start with the vowel. Поговорим об истории. Yeah, just so that you don't have to do this. О истории. Doesn't really roll off the tongue. О политике, об истории. And a less common one is the preposition при, which means in the presence of or under the management of someone. Here are some examples. При Путине, in or under the management, I guess, of Putin, в России много коррупции. При мне, не говори так при мне. Don't talk like that in my presence. So very, very specific preposition, not super often used, but when you're dealing with history, political history, при Иване Грозном, при Петре Первом, при Горбачеве, it's all going to be при with dative. Or if you witness something, при мне он его ударил, he hit him before my eyes, in my presence. That's your dative.
Мне надо при вас всех сказать одно. So guys, I have to leave, unfortunately, but don't forget that if you have questions or worries, to address them to any of us. We're all here. And in the meantime, good luck and enjoy this process as much as possible, and see you soon. До свидания.
Thank you for coming. See you Friday.
See you guys.
Okay, these are actually all the usages that I managed to remember of prepositional. And here's what it looks like. And you can see the table is much smaller. Pretty much it's the E case. You just, in most cases, plop the E onto there and it probably works. It's probably gonna be fine. If you were to guess, in singular, obviously. Yeah is the go-to. Any gender. Yeah. О работе, о бизнесе, работа, о работе, бизнес, о бизнесе, о кошке. Of course, there are exceptions. Like if it's an IA word, Россия, that's going to be EE. о России, about Russia. If it's a feminine word and then a мягкий знак, жизнь, life. Поговорим о жизни. Let's talk about life. That's the E ending. And plural are pretty much always going to be ach, or its soft counterpart, ech. O koshkach, o knigach. Descriptors, unfortunately, gender differentiated. Oye for feminine, omiem. Oh yeah, sorry, that's the not the plural, that's the singular. Yeah. Singular adjectives. Oye for feminine, omiem for masculine, but ich for plural for any sort of gender. Find some words that work for you, make examples with them, memorize them. I can't say it enough. And we are on our last case. Yeah, we've gone through 5. Now it's the 6th, which is instrumental, which you can remember as your with, by case. It works with or by. So as its name tells us, it is the case of instrument of action. Something that you use to accomplish something else. Humans are so smart because they learned how to use tools, even though some primates and birds can do that too. And it's a sign of intelligence somehow. He killed her with, as in by the means of, an axe, like Raskolnikov. Он убил ее топором. Note that when it's an instrument, you do not need a with. Он убил ее с топором would be incorrect. No S. Он убил ее by what? Топором. I wrote it with a pen. Я написала это ручкой. No S, just ручкой. Она сделала это своими руками. She made it by her own hands. So this is like literally in the name, instrument. Another super common usage is the preposition с, with. Вот кофе с молоком. Here's coffee with milk. I went there with my sister. Я пошла с моей сестрой. Or even things like, I disagree with you. Я не согласна с тобой. Yeah, or I'm arguing with you. Я спорю с тобой. And a whole cluster of prepositions, which I called 3D positional prepositions. Excuse the redundancy, I just didn't really. But basically, all the 3D positions. Behind, in front of, under, above, or between. Yeah, like if you imagine a box and like a little, I don't know, ball, and you put the ball on it, under it, next to it, that kind of thing, behind it, that's going to be all prepositional. Oh, sorry, instrumental. Instrumental. За, behind. Not the kind of za that is for, but za, behind. За домом, behind the house. Перед, in front. Перед мной, in front of me. Под, да, под машиной, under the car. Над, above something, да. Над головой, above my head. Or между нами, да, between us. Time. One of the most difficult topics. There are some expressions of time that are made with instrumental, and there are all things that are tied to sun cycles. So kind of like natural things. That encompasses morning, daytime, evening, nighttime, so kind of the daily cycle of the sun. Утром, in the morning. Днем, вечером, ночью. And these are actually going to be perfect for you to memorize and use as models for endings, for other words. And no need for prepositions there. Or larger sun cycles, the yearly cycles. Летом, in the summer. Осенью, in the fall. Весной, in the spring. Зимой, in winter. Yeah, you can frame them, put it in your restroom to look at them every day, because these are worth memorizing by heart. They're gonna do you a great service. I would understand if instrumental is someone's least favorite case, because honestly, it just does so much. Here's another one. After verbs to be, note explicit verbs to be. If you say я студентка, I am a student, you don't need that. But the second быть in one of the forms come in place, that's going to be instrumental. Yeah? Я буду или ты была. Become, стать, seem, казаться, and to work as someone, работать, not to have a profession. Она была актрисой. She was an actress. Я буду адвокатом. I will be a lawyer. Я хочу быть президентом. All of these situations where быть is explicit. Ты кажешься грустной. You seem as sad. Yeah, you seem to be sad. Вы работаете доктором? Do you work as a doctor? Ура! Яна стала мамой. Yay! Jane became a mother. Да? Быть, стать, казаться, работать. Be, become, seem, or work as. So these are your basic things. Instrument of action with 3D positions, sun cycles, and those verbs. Some reflexive verbs do that too. I have listed here the most useful of them. Интересоваться, to be interested. Он интересуется чем? With what? Спортом, футболом, баскетболом, хоккеем. Увлекаться, a very similar one. Yeah, to have it as a hobby, to literally be interested in that. Несси увлекается чем? Птицами. Заниматься, to occupy yourself with, either at the moment or usually. Да, like заниматься спортом, to do sports. I've used another very frequent set phrase, which is заниматься сексом, to have sex. We don't have it, we occupy ourselves with it. Мои соседи громко занимаются сексом. Or if it's something that you do consistently, yeah, it's your specialization, like Марк занимается лингвистикой. Yeah, he does linguistics. That's also prepositional. Пользоваться, to use. Я не знаю, как пользоваться айфоном. Also instrumental. So these four. And again, here is under little asterisks, under the star. Less used, but also prepositional. Отличаться, to differ in something or to stand out with something. Labradori, it's a kind of a dog, Labradors. Отличаются интеллектом, are remarkable by their intellect, are different from other dogs by their outstanding intellect. Or you have two t-shirts, and you can ask, Tim, with what? Отличаются эти футболки. With what do they differ? Well, они отличаются дизайном и цветом. Different in design or by design and by color. Восхищаться, to admire, is not an accusative word, it's an instrumental. Я восхищаюсь тобой, I admire you. Я восхищаюсь твоей смелостью. I admire your bravery. And these two are like super rare, but I thought, yeah, I might as well throw them in. Metaphor. You see this in Russian literature a lot. Poetry, mostly. Он полетел птицей would be he flew like a bird. Yeah, как птица. And a set expression, which is good for your just spoken Russian, ругаться матом, to curse by the means of curse words. Yeah, матом. It means you just basically curse. That was all. That was a lot, I know. But hopefully you don't have to do it again. Hopefully you have your great notes and a more systematic kind of understanding, because again, it takes a lot to sit down and look at all of them in their most and least common. And this presentation is available for you in your Google Drive or Comms to always come back to and look at those examples of this. Woof.
Спасибо, Nessie.
You guys have any comments, questions?
It was very helpful. Thank you.
Mhm.